Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of This Week in the XFL. I'm your host, as always, the referee representing XFL Newsroom. The number one source in XFL news. And we have a huge news week for you. I know I say that pretty much every week at this point, but we just had the preseason, so you know there's some things to talk about. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you we have a giveaway going on. You can win 2 tickets to any XFL game this season. We won't get you the flights there, but we'll get you the seats to enjoy the game. How do you win? Well, all you got to do is like, comment, subscribe, and click the link down in the description for the Discord. Get up to at least a rookie status, only about 50 or 60 posts, but the good news is you'll be hanging out with a bunch of other like-minded XFL fans just like you and me. So hey, let's kick this week off. We got some huge things to talk about. First, we're going to talk about a big trade. So Luis Perez, one of the Tier 1 quarterbacks that was announced that first day when all 8 Tier 1 quarterbacks were announced, the same day that the inaugural XFL draft occurred. Luis Perez has been traded from the Wildcats to the New York Guardians. So they traded Chad Canoff from New York, sent him to LA, and Luis Perez is moving over to the Northeast for the Guardians. And it surprised a lot of people, mainly in part, like we mentioned, he was one of those Tier 1 quarterbacks, but on the other side of the same coin, it did make a little bit of sense. So a few weeks after that they announced their Tier 1 quarterbacks, the Wildcats had acquired, or had been assigned to them, Josh Johnson, an NFL veteran. So, you know, it really is no surprise. And quite honestly, I think this is going to be a better move for Perez. I think he's going to get a little bit more playing room up there with McGloin than he would down with the Wildcats. So, hey, only time will tell. Are you a Wildcats fan? Are you sad that this happened? Are you a Guardians fan and happy that you're going to have some extra backup up there? Well, hey, let us know down in the comments below. Or if you're feeling like having a good time, click on that Discord. Come hang out. We've been talking about this and many other things for about a year now. But I don't know, one of the more surprising trades in the league so far, probably one of the biggest trades in the league so far, to be in all honesty. And it was right before the training camps ended. So we'll talk about the training camps and the preseasons here a little bit later. But before we do, since we were talking about those training camps, the preseason happened near the end, took place earlier this week on Monday and Tuesday. But one thing that came out of it is we got our first sneak preview at what those XFL referee uniforms are going to look like. So last week on our episode, we took you to the training camp, to the open practice, the joint practice with the Houston Roughnecks and the Tampa Bay Vipers. And in that footage, you can see, at least at what the time we presume, what might be those XFL referee shirts, at least the uniforms. They were very traditional, right? Just the black and white stripes. Well, on Monday, the XFL posted a picture of what that referee uniform is officially going to look like. There's a little bit of difference of opinion online, but me, honestly, I love it. It matches the look and the feel of the XFL. So rather than having your straight lines, things kind of curve up into that jagged XFL X, right? Get something similar to the tip of the XFL football. I love it. You have that darker look. You have the numbers on the front and the back. All in all, it gives the XFL a slightly different identity. It doesn't add a gimmick to the league. It just adds the identity. And in all reality, like we were talking about last week, when we compare the NFL, the AAF, and now the XFL Ref Uniforms, well, the XFL definitely beats out the AAF, like I mentioned last week. Those kind of look like the refs are wearing a sports bra. These look pretty awesome. I'm excited to see them on the field. I'm hoping they add them to the XFL shop. Because I am the referee, we might need to update this attire here. Time will tell, and we'll keep you posted if that ever does happen. But we're getting to the fun stuff now. We're only a couple weeks from when the XFL finally officially kicks off. So something else we talked about last week was the fact that Chad Ochocinco Johnson announced via Twitter that he was going to be trying out in the XFL as a kicker. That tryout was supposed to take place this past Monday, and as Monday came, there wasn't much news online. It had fans asking, what was going on with this tryout? Did he even show up? Was it canceled? Surely the XFL would be talking about this. You would think Ochocinco would be hyping this on social media, but as Monday came and went, there was no news. Well, now it's been confirmed via ESPN that late Sunday night, just one day before the tryout was supposed to take place, Ochocinco called the XFL and said he wasn't going to make it. And during the day on Monday, there were people following his social media activity, and there wasn't much to be seen. It definitely nothing to do with the XFL. There was a post about him waking up at noon, and there were some posts about him talking about flying out to Miami later that night. And like we mentioned, now it's been confirmed he didn't go to the tryout. It's not like he didn't no-show. He did at least inform the league. He still hasn't publicly commented on this issue. I don't know if he ever will. The idea going into this, at least according to what he said, this all in reality was probably a publicity stunt anyway, but according to him, when he posted last week, the idea was if he can make it onto an XFL team and last a season, do well, then he might be able to make it onto one of those NFL teams. Well, either way, it's not happening. The tryout never took place. We'll give you an update on another celebrity, if you will, tryout. So PFT, he tried out, and it was released earlier this week. He didn't make the cut. I know there's a lot of Defenders fans that are probably sad, but in all reality, we knew he wasn't going to make the cut anyway. This is more of a gag, and I love these types of things. It's great to see the league doing different types of things just to have a little bit of fun, get their name out there. So, hey, either way, no Ochocinco. It's unfortunate if you wanted him there, but it's not going to happen. But we're going to move on to some other news, maybe some better news. Well, I guess it depends who you ask. Battlehawks fans may not be too ecstatic about this one, but safety Kenny Robinson announced that he has been accepted into the 2020 NFL Draft. And it was later confirmed by Eric Gelko that yes, indeed, Kenny Robinson will enter the 2020 NFL Draft at the conclusion of the XFL season. So this is really, I think, what the AAF was trying to accomplish, was create a system, a building block league to get people into the NFL or back into the NFL. Now the XFL is a little bit different. They are a professional football league, but they do understand there is going to be some churn, especially in those first couple formative years, right? They're still in those building stages. Now 5-10 years from now, I think they're going to be in a lot more solid position where players will probably end up staying in the league. And a lot of these players will stay in the XFL. I think there's a certain amount of players that really just want to play football and maybe not necessarily just get back into the NFL. Well, Kenny Robinson is one of them. Regardless how you feel on it, and again, this is just my opinion, I think this is a great thing for the players and the XFL. You can make a case study on this about how, it really does make it more enticing for players to want to come into the XFL and play if they know they have that opportunity to continue their career, maybe go into the NFL, or like we mentioned, get back into the NFL. So either way, I'm excited for Kenny Robinson. I hope he gets in there. If he doesn't, we'll all be excited to see him back on the Battlehawks. But I'm thinking after this season, after he gets some of that footage, there's really going to be no reason that he won't get picked up. So, like we mentioned a little bit earlier, the training camps, they're going on, or well, they're over now. But earlier at the end of the training camp, we had the preseason. So earlier on Monday and Tuesday, we had our first 4 preseason games. In all reality, our last 4 preseason games. The first one up was the Defenders and the Seattle Dragons, a preview of that first game of the season. And really, that's what all of these games were. So every game is a game that's going to take place week 1. And this is really being used as a dry run for not only the league, the players, the coaches, but the broadcast announcers as well. Well, one thing that we did notice when the league posted a picture of the scoreboard, which looks awesome by the way, is we finally got our look at the alternate logo for the Defenders and the Dragons. So we had seen a lot of alternate logos across the league. We saw it from New York, Tampa Bay, Wildcats, Roughnecks, Renegades. There was a few out there. We didn't have the Battlehawks, the Dragons, or the Defenders. Well, that first game, we got to see what those alternate logos are going to look like. And I must say, I'm really loving that DC Defenders alt logo. I like them both, but that Defenders one is top notch if you ask me. What do you think about the alt logos though? Do you think they outshine the other ones? Do you think they don't fit or don't need them at all? Now, we'll just jump ahead to the next game. We'll do some recap here in a second. But many had wondered, hey, are we going to see that Battlehawks alternate logo when they play later in the afternoon? Well, we didn't get to see it. At least it wasn't on the scoreboard. They just used their main logo. And quite honestly, I don't think every team needs an alt logo, an alternate logo. But hey, let us know. Are you sad about that as a Battlehawks fan? I don't think it affects the play on the field. So to me, it's not a huge deal. But we're going to move on here to the preseason, right? We're going to do some preseason recap. This is where it gets real exciting. So, like we mentioned, the first game up, Battlehawks and Defenders, a preview of the first XFL game that we'll be watching, some in person, some on TV, in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks, right? So, technically speaking, we saw the first touchdown in XFL history. Well, sorta, right? It is preseason. But BJ Daniels connected with wide receiver Micah Holder, putting them up by 6 early. In the same quarter, they got 3 extra points from a successful field goal from Cole Tracy, right? We spoke about him a few weeks back. He had just signed with the team, so they were looking pretty good. They were up 10-0 with that extra point conversion. So things were looking pretty solid. The Defenders, though, not wanting to get too far behind, they had a little bit of strength there. Cardale Jones connecting with Westerkamp, getting them on the board. Overall, that second half was a little bit back and forth, but the Defenders pulled it out 21-16. So one thing to keep in mind here is, again, this is really, if you want to compare it to anything, similar to that 4th week of the NFL preseason. This is the coach's last chance to assess these players before the inevitable cuts are coming. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode. So again, this is really like a dry run. They're not using their main schematics. They're not going to use their top plays, especially for the fact that these are the same teams that they're going to be playing here in just a couple weeks when the league kicks off. So don't be too worried about these preseason scores, but we had to report on them because we are XFL Newsroom, that #1 source, in XFL news. Sign everyone up. We're having good today. We're having fun today. Geez, I can't even speak anymore. So we're moving on to the second game of the afternoon. And again, these were the ESPN games. The next games we'll talk about are the games that are going to occur on Fox. Those are the people testing everything out on the field. So we had the Battlehawks and the Renegades. Things started out a bit slow. No scoring in that first quarter, but it did give ESPN a chance to test out a new feature that they call the X Spot. And if you were following XFL on Twitter, you would have seen this. It's basically used to do sideline interviews, but I like the setup they had, and the idea is when a big play happens, they're going to interview that player right away, right after, get that true emotion in there. I'm excited to see these things, so although no scoring, we did see the league testing some things out, or at least the broadcast partners. But the Renegades, they didn't take too long. Jazz Ferguson, he burned that St. Louis secondary, ran it in for the touchdown, put him up there in that second quarter. And Dallas, you know what? They came back for more. Marquise Young running it in, getting that receive, running it in, putting them up by 2 touchdowns. So the Battlehawks didn't want to get down too much as the half was ending. Jordan Teamu passed it over to Cole Hunt, put them up. But, Dallas, they came out real strong in that second half. Simi Cobbs got in that score, putting them up 21-6. Fourth quarter, Battlehawks came back with a touchdown. So it was still within reach there, but at the end of the day, Dallas, they did it 21-16. They held it. And again, like we just said, don't be too surprised. Don't be too worried about these scores. So moving on to day 2, we had the Roughnecks and the Wildcats starting things out. Roughnecks kind of had an advantage. They're the only team here that got to play on their home turf. They get that extra opportunity there. And you know what? They came out strong. So Sergio Castillo, he got a 44-yard field goal, putting up 3-0. Then Trey McBride making a reception, putting him up by a touchdown. Now, we've talked about this in the past. June Jones is a man that loves points, so as we expected, he tried that 3-point conversion. Unfortunately for them, it was unsuccessful. We'll see this trend here. He tries it out a bunch throughout this afternoon, but we know if there's an opportunity to get 3, he's going to try to get 3. So the Wildcats, they got the ball. They couldn't capitalize, but the Roughnecks still coming out strong. Connor Cook now passed it over to Khalil Lewis, putting them up 15-8, and they actually got 3 more points before the half ended, ending it 18-8. But the Wildcats, you know what? It was a little bit of a back and forth second half there. Ultimately, the Wildcats scored. There was a couple interceptions in there. There was a little bit of back and forth. And again, they're not using those main schemes. They're doing a lot of assessing here. But the Wildcats, they pulled it out 23-18. Now, one thing I do want to mention is, again, there was a lot of testing going on here. So during a few of these games, the league tested out the overtime rules as well. This was one of those. Roughnecks still couldn't pull it out. But again, this is still that preseason. We'll see if things change. It was a nice close game. That's what I like to see. I want to see an exciting game that first week. I'm excited to see the Wildcats here. I'm excited to watch the Roughnecks finally. Section 109 represent. So we're moving on to the last game of the preseason, the Vipers and the Guardians. Now, of all of them, this is probably the slowest one here. Tampa Bay, they really couldn't get things going, but the Guardians came out strong, putting 6 on the board early. Vipers got the ball back, really couldn't capitalize, but T.O. Redding of the Guardians, he caught it, ran it in, putting it up 14-6. So there was a little bit of back and forth here, but you'll get the trend as we go on. The Vipers had the ball to start off the half. They used it to their advantage, adding 6 more on the board, 20-12 at this point. But the Guardians, they just kept going. They just kept going. At the end of the day, total score 27-12. They tested out those overtime rules as well. But the Guardians came out strong. And quite honestly, I think there's going to be a lot of people changing who they're picking now, right? Especially now that we have Luis Perez going up there with McGloin and the quarterback whisperer, Kevin Gilbride. I think there's going to be some magic happening up there in MetLife. Hopefully it's not against the Roughnecks, but only time will tell. So like we mentioned, that was really the end of the training camp. That was the end of the preseason. But we'll give you a quick recap on the scores here. So again, the first game of the day, at least the first day, we had the Dragons and the Defenders. The Defenders pulling it out 21-16. Second game, the Battlehawks battling the Renegades, but they couldn't get it done. Dallas pulling it out with a close one, 21-18. Starting out the second day, we had the Roughnecks, like I said, on their home field at TD-ECU Stadium, taking on the Wildcats, but they couldn't get it done, 23-18. And the Guardians and the Vipers and Gilbride and company doing it pretty strong there, 27-15. So that's the end of the preseason. That's the end of the training camps. Like we mentioned, the next thing up is the cuts. There's some rumors online of who those guys are that have been cut, and we'll let you do your own research to find that. We're not going to talk about it yet because it's not official. But the good news is we don't have to wait long. This coming Monday at noon Eastern, the XFL is going to be releasing the 52-man roster for all 8 of the franchises. So this coming Monday, we are going to know who the identity of our teams are. We are going to know who those players that are going to be representing us on the field are going to be. Now, there still hasn't been any news on Team 9, but we expect after these cuts, maybe we'll get some news on that. I expect a lot of Team 9 is going to be comprised of some of the people in these cuts. Only time will tell. We're getting to that exciting point. We're just a little over 2 weeks. 2 weeks from when the XFL finally kicks off. We've been doing this for over a year. We've been having fun along the way. We thank you for joining us. But hopefully you had fun. It was a great week. You can't lie, you can't deny. When I say it's a huge news week, it's a huge news week. It's been fun. One little thing that I do want to mention, if you are in the Houston area, the Houston Roughnecks have put the parking passes for sale if you're a season ticket holder. They're as low as $100. I got mine the other day in that tailgate section. So hey, there's gonna be a link down there. If you're planning on going to those Roughnecks games, check out our tailgate group. We're gonna be having a blast. We're gonna have food, beer, drinks. It's gonna be family friendly as well. So we hope to see you there if you're in that Houston area. But like I said, it was definitely a huge news week. But that's really about it for us this week. But before I let you go, if you didn't know, we're also on Facebook and Twitter. So make sure you give us a follow at XFL Newsroom for all the latest news. And since we're on YouTube, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to see when we're dropping new videos. Some are gonna be live and some are gonna be pre-recorded, just like this one. So until next time, sign you up.